It's so easy to forget the seasons are even changing.
Oh, absolutely.
Modern life just moves in this straight line, right?
Yeah.
Monday to Friday, deadline to deadline. You could feel completely disconnected from the Earth's natural rhythm.
The cycles of growth and abundance and then, rest.
Exactly. But what if there was an ancient calendar, something tracked for millennia, that could reconnect you to those deep cycles of nature?
And that's the core of the source material we're looking at today. We're diving into the structure and really the philosophy behind the pagan wheel of the year.
Okay.
This sacred calendar, it's central to modern pagan and witchcraft traditions, and it doesn't just mark off months. It actually maps the energetic shifts of the year through 8 holy days.
So our mission for this deep dive is to sort of extract the blueprint of these 8 festivals, which are called the Sabbats.
That's right.
We want to show how they reflect these, I guess, inescapable rhythms of nature and transformation. So for you listening, this isn't just history. Understanding the Sabbats is like a shortcut to learning how to live in harmony with the planet.
And to see that time itself is a cyclical, sacred thing.
Right.
So to start, let's lay out the geography of this wheel. The Sabbats are 8 seasonal holy days. You'll find them widely used in Wicca, paganism, a lot of contemporary spiritual practices.
Okay, 8 points on a wheel. Simple enough.
Well, here's the crucial distinction. These 8 points are not all the same. They're systematically divided into 2 distinct alternating categories.
Ah, okay, so we have what, like the astronomical markers and then something else?
Precisely. You have the 4 solar Sabbats. They're often called the Greater Sabbat.
The Greater Sabbat.
And these are the fixed astronomical events that align with the major seasonal turning points. They celebrate the power of the sun, marking moments of, balance or extreme light and dark.
These feel like the anchors of the year, even for people who don't follow the tradition. We all know about the solstices and equinoxes.
They absolutely are the astronomical pillars. And then alternating with them are the other 4, the fire Sabbats, sometimes known as the lesser Sabbats.
And what defines that fire Sabbat category? Where does the fire come in?
Well, they are deeply rooted in ancient agricultural and fire traditions. Fire was essential.
Right.
For clearing land, for community signals, for purifying, for celebrating fertility. So together, these 8 points, 4 solar, 4 fire, they complete this sacred annual cycle of life, death, and rebirth.
Okay, so let's unpack the solar Sabbats first. These are the 4 big points that track the celestial dance of the sun.
We can begin, symbolically, at the darkest point. Yule, the winter solstice. That's usually around December 21st.
The shortest day of the year.
Exactly. Astronomically, the shortest day, but spiritually, it's seen as the moment of the sun's rebirth. It's the promise that the light is coming back.
So the whole story of light begins to build from there. The days get longer, and eventually darkness balances with light, which brings us to
Ostara, the spring equinox, around March 20th. This is all about renewal, the energy for new growth, and it's that moment of perfect balance between day and night.
And the sun's power just keeps growing from there.
It does. It keeps building, reaching its absolute maximum power at Litha, the summer solstice, around June 21st.
The peak of the year, the most light, the most energy, everything's abundant.
That's it. And then finally, the wheel turns again. We swing back towards reflection and darkness with Mabon, the autumn equinox. That's typically September 22nd.
And we're back to that perfect equilibrium again between light and dark. It marks the transition into the waning half of the year. So those 4 solar Sabbats literally track the physical light levels.
Yes, and what's so fascinating here is how the fire Sabbats then function as the connective tissue between those major points. They root the cycle in the immediate, practical concerns of ancient communities. Agriculture, survival. And unlike the solar Sabbats, which float a bit based on the astronomy, the fire Sabbats are largely fixed to specific calendar dates.
Ah, that distinction of fixed date versus an astronomical event, that's key to understanding their history, isn't it?
It is.
So walk us through those 4 practical points.
The first fire Sabbat is Imbolc on February 1st. It's a festival of purification and the very, very first stirrings of spring, even when everything outside is still frozen.
So anciently, this was the time to do what? Clean your tools.
Exactly. Purify tools, clear out the stale energy of winter, prepare the seeds for planting. It's all about preparation.
Then 3 months later, the energy just explodes with Beltane on May 1st.
Yes, Beltane is entirely focused on fertility, passion, the full awakening of life. It's the celebration that growth is, fully underway.
Then moving into late summer.
We reach Lughnasadh, often called Lamos, on August 1st. This is a crucial point. It marks the first grain harvest.
First one.
Yes. So it's a moment of gratitude, but also an acknowledgement that the full abundance isn't secure yet. It's the promise of the full harvest still to come.
And finally, the Sabbath that signals the end of the harvest and the deepest descent. Samhain.
That's November 1st.
The one most people know.
It's the most historically resonant, often aligned with modern Halloween. Samhain is unique. It signals the end of the agricultural year and the transition into the spiritual new year. And its focus on ancestors is tied to this concept of the thinning of the veil.
Okay, let's clarify that for a listener who might be new to this. What does thinning of the veil actually mean?
It refers to the idea that on Samhain, the boundary between our physical world and the spiritual realms, the place where ancestors or the dead reside, is at its weakest point.
So it's easier to communicate.
It facilitates communication, remembrance, transformation. It makes it a really powerful time for divination and deep reflection. So all told, these 8 Sabbats complete this very holistic, structured year.
Okay, so we've mapped out the what and the when. But the real power of this wheel is how these ancient dates can be a blueprint for living intentionally today, right, in the 21st century.
Absolutely.
So what do the sources say is the purpose behind keeping these rhythms now, beyond just, historical curiosity?
That's where the analysis gets really insightful.
Yep.
The sources outline 4 core motivations that tie the wheel directly to spiritual growth. And the first, the most foundational reason, is simply to honor nature and the earth.
And this speaks directly to our modern disconnect, doesn't it? I mean, we operate under artificial light in climate-controlled rooms.
Yeah.
We often ignore the outside world completely.
Exactly. Celebrating the Sabbats is a deliberate counteraction to that. It forces you to slow down, to consciously observe the cycles of light and darkness, the land's growth and rest.
And it can be simple, right? Like just taking a walk or bringing something seasonal inside.
It's about reaffirming that we are inseparable from nature, not masters over it.
The second reason you mentioned is to honor the sun and the divine cycle itself. It provides this year-long narrative.
A profoundly metaphorical one, yes.
Yeah.
And it mirrors our own personal journeys. In many traditions, the sun is personified as a divine masculine figure. You might hear him called the Oak King or the Sun God, and he completes a yearly cycle of growth, sacrifice, and rebirth.
So we can track the spiritual energy of our own lives through this sort of divine drama.
Absolutely. The sun is reborn at Yule, just a tiny spark of hope that grows. It reaches its peak ambition and power at Letha, which asks us to maximize our own outward energy.
Right. Get things done.
Then it willingly begins its decline at Mabon, signaling that we have to prepare for reflection. And finally, it descends into the underworld at Samhain, ready for that deep rest before the next rebirth. It's a map for our own cycles of ambition and, necessary withdrawal.
I see the power in that. If we are constantly pushing with that peak Letha energy, we just burn out.
You do.
The wheel mandates a period of rest and reflection.
It does. Which brings us to the third reason, which is all about survival. To celebrate agriculture and the harvest. The historical roots, especially for the fire Sabbats, were based on community survival.
If you look at those 4 dates, they are really crucial check-ins for an agricultural society.
They were critical. Think about Imbolc on February 1st. Its ancient focus on purification wasn't just abstract. It meant cleaning the sheep pens for lambing, purifying the home after a winter of sickness, blessing the plows.
And that translates to today.
It translates directly into modern cleansing rituals. Decluttering your mind, preparing a new project, clearing the slate.
Okay, what about Lughnasadh? We often kind of skip over that one in the popular imagination, but it sounds really important.
Lughnasadh on August 1st is the first fruit, the first grain harvest. Spiritually, it's a time of intense gratitude, but also a sober recognition that abundance often requires sacrifice.
The grain god is cut down so the community can live.
Right. It teaches us to accept the initial results of our efforts, to acknowledge what we've successfully harvested, be it a new skill, a finished project, whatever, even if the full potential isn't realized yet.
That makes the celebration so tangible. It's about grounding your spiritual intention in a physical act, like baking bread or sharing a seasonal meal with purpose.
And this leads us right to the fourth and most personal reason to mark spiritual growth. Each Sabbat carries a specific theme that helps guide you through transformation. They really are 8 spiritual checkpoints.
But how do those themes contrast across the wheel? I mean, if Yule's about rebirth, isn't there a risk of just rushing past the necessary death part of Samhain?
That's the critical balance the will provides. Think about the opposite ends of the spectrum. Letha is pure external power, right? The height of manifestation. But its opposite, Yule, demands we look inward, find the inner light, and just nurture it. Similarly, the outward passion of Beltane has to eventually give way to the introspection and self-assessment that's required by Mabon. The structure ensures you don't get stuck in one energetic state.
So Mabon is about reflection and balance, taking stock of what the year brought. And Samhain is the release that allows for Yule's rebirth. It's a continuous cycle.
A cycle of intention, action, harvest, and necessary rest. Absolutely. The themes are your guideposts. Beltane is passion, Lughnasadh is gratitude, Samhain is transformation, Ostara is new energy.
Okay, to make this even more tangible, let's touch on the physical rituals. What are the concrete practices that anchor these big energetic shifts?
It's the practical application of the themes, really. Let's look at how the power of light is celebrated across them well.
Okay, starting again with Yule. The height of darkness. Why the focus on fire and evergreens?
Well, the practices are all about celebrating the return of the sun. The ancient tradition of the Yule log is key. It's lit to entice the sun to come back, and you keep it burning as a focus for hope. And evergreen trees are brought inside because they symbolize life persisting through winter's death, reinforcing that spiritual theme of hope and rebirth.
It's all about creating light in the literal and metaphorical dark.
Yes. And then you move to the first fire festival, Imbolc, awakening and purification.
So cleaning.
Imbolc rituals focus on deep cleansing. So yeah, literal house cleaning, mental decluttering, often using running water or smoke cleansing to wash away the stagnant energy of winter. The importance of candle magic here is tied to honoring the Irish goddess Brigid.
For inspiration, right?
For inspiration and poetry, symbolizing that spark of creative potential returning to the land.
Then we jump to Beltane, the high-energy fertility celebration.
An outwardly focused, joyous festival. Bonfires are central. Historically, livestock would be driven between two fires for purification and protection.
And maple.
The maypole dance, a classic Beltane tradition. It's a symbol of fertility, the union of masculine and feminine energies, celebrating the vibrant life force of the earth.
And finally, circling back to Samhain, the great transformation and remembrance.
The customs here focus intensely on transition. I think the most powerful practices involve setting up ancestor altars or dumb suppers where you set a place for those who've passed on.
It's not morbid, though.
Not at all. It's an active way to honor your lineage and seek wisdom from the past. Divination practices are also really common, using that thinning of the veil to gain insight into the dark half of the year ahead. These rituals make the abstract concept of transformation really palpable.
So what does this all mean for someone navigating the speed of the modern world? Why does tracking this ancient wheel still hold so much value today?
It really summarizes the core insight of the source material. The Sabbats are so meaningful precisely because they remind us that the most valuable things in life change, growth, decline, and rest are cyclical, not linear.
It teaches us that light always returns.
And that every ending naturally leads to a new beginning.
So by observing these 8 checkpoints, you're not just, celebrating history. You're injecting structure into an otherwise chaotic life.
Yeah.
You're slowing down, reflecting, and choosing to live more intentionally through your own cycle of renewal.
It forces a more holistic approach to just existing. As the sources beautifully summarize, the underlying philosophy is, as the wheel turns, so do we. We move from external action to internal reflection, from growth to necessary rest, ensuring we're active, conscious participants in our own spiritual journey.
And that invites a final thought for you to carry forward. If the wheel represents transformation and this framework is a map for your personal growth, just look at where you are today. If you're currently feeling the height of outward energy, a spiritual letha, what conscious step are you taking toward Mabon? What emotional or spiritual harvest or release that this ancient wisdom requires are you actively planning for to ensure a healthy descent into your next cycle?